Hey guys, welcome to my Week 12 NFL Best Bets video for the 2023 NFL football season. So we'll be looking at our Sunday best bets. That'll be the spreads, money lines, and the over-under for Week 12 of the NFL football season for the Sunday games. So let's go ahead and get started. Hit that like button and subscribe. So kicking things off on Sunday at 1 p.m., we have the New Orleans Saints at 5-5, and this will be on Fox, versus the Atlanta Falcons sitting at 4-6. So the Saints come into this game as 2-point favorites, and the over-under is 41.5. So Derek Carr was cleared to pay, so he will be getting the action at quarterback for the Saints. Looking at the Saints as a team, this is actually a pretty good roster. They're good on both sides of the ball, on offense and on defense, but they haven't really been playing that well throughout the season. But this team is much better than their 5-5 record. They have a very good defense. The main issue there is at the quarterback and the playmaker position. So Derek Carr, as of right now, he does have 2,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 4 picks. Now, he has a lot of weapons. He has Kamara. He has Olave. They're just not going vertical really at all. They're doing a lot of dink and dunk passes. They're not really pushing the ball down the field, and that's one of the main things that has held them back. For the Falcons, they have a lot of offensive weapons, but their biggest issue is quarterback. They have absolutely no quarterback to get the ball to the playmakers' hands. That would be Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts. They have a lot of weapons there. They just can't make any plays without the quarterback. For the Saints as a team, they do come into this game. They average 21.4 points per game, and the Falcons a measly 18.9 points per game. On the defensive side of the ball, the Saints do give up 19.8 points per game, and the Falcons 21.7 points per game. So this game is obviously going to be in Atlanta, so they do have the favor there. They are kind of sliding the last 2 to 3 weeks. Like I said, as long as they don't have a quarterback, which they should be drafting a first-round quarterback during the draft this year, the Saints have to be the favorite here. They do come into this game as 2-point favorites. I have the Saints winning this game 24-17. So I have them covering the spread, but I am going to go with the under. The next game we have at 1 p.m. on CBS is the Pittsburgh Steelers sitting at 6-4 versus the Cincinnati Bengals at 5-5. Pittsburgh here is 2-point favorites, and the over-under is an extremely low 35.5 points. So with this game, with the Steelers, they have absolutely no offense whatsoever. When you look at their quarterback, Kenny Pickett, he has 1,700 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 picks. He has been pretty banged up this year, but even when he's healthy, he's not very good at all. So they have virtually no passing game. They have virtually no running game. But they have a very solid defense, and they basically rely on their defense to get them the wins. For the Bengals, they sit at 5-5. Joe Burrow is out for the year, so they will be starting Jake Browning. He's been in the NFL for a while. He's the quarterback out of Washington, and he's been a backup for a while. So he is a pretty seasoned backup. He is serviceable. But the Bengals were having a pretty tough year with Burrow. Burrow has been banged up the whole season, has not been himself. They have weapons. I don't really know what they're trying to do as of right now. So they have Burrow locked up on a massive deal. But what's going to happen with guys like Chase and stuff? So they have their rookie contracts ending soon, and they're basically going to be due for massive paydays. So I don't know what the Bengals want to do going forward. Do they just basically want to crater for the rest of the season and try to get a number 10 to 12 pick and maybe see if you want to draft some wideouts, some defensive players? What's their direction going forward? So you have Burrow locked up, but a lot of other guys are going to be due for their paydays pretty soon. Looking at some of the team stats here, Pittsburgh comes in, they average, this is horrible, 16.6 points per game. So to actually have 6 wins so far, that's an accomplishment there. Cincinnati, they average 20.2 points per game. And the Steelers, they have a solid defense. They give up 19.5 points per game. Cincinnati gives up 22.6 points per game. Look for the Steelers to be throwing everything defensively at Jake Browning here. They're going to try to fluster him, and they're going to try to confuse him. Look for TJ Watt to be getting a lot of praise, putting a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks. I have the Steelers getting the win here just because the Bengals probably aren't going to be able to move the ball very well. I have the Steelers winning 20-14, so covering that spread, but I am going to go with the under. So this game will probably be pretty low scoring. The next game we have at 1 p.m. on Fox, we have the 1-9 Carolina Panthers visiting 3-7 Tennessee Titans. Tennessee is 3.5-point favorites here, and the over-under is 36.5. So when you look at the Panthers, they have one win, so they're in search of their second win. They do have Bryce Young playing. This is a pretty banged-up team. They lack the weapons, so they can't compete with a team that can push the ball down the field. They don't have a very good defense. They don't have a very good offense, so they're not in a very good place right now. What are they really playing for? Just basically trying to get Bryce Young some snaps. So he has shown some promise. He's shown some areas where he is lacking, but they're definitely trying to get as much use out of him right now just to see what he has. For Tennessee, so obviously Ryan Tannehill is gone. They have Will Levis in at quarterback. He, just like Bryce Young, he has shown some really good flashes, and he's also shown some areas where he needs development. But when he has shown flashes, he has a strong arm, pretty good at decision making. So he possibly is the bright future looking forward. They have Derrick Henry. That's basically the main kicker here. So Tennessee has a solid defense. They have a quarterback that can lead you down the field, but they have a quarterback's best friend. They have a solid, pounding running back. They're just basically going to run the ball down the Panthers' throats and beat them physically at the line of scrimmage. For Carolina, they come in. Both of these teams do not have very good offenses at all, but the Panthers, they average 16.3 points per game. Tennessee averages 16.8 points per game. So they're pretty much even there. But on defense is where you see the difference. So the Panthers give up 27.5 points per game. That's definitely the bottom 10 in the NFL. And Tennessee gives up 21.4 points per game. So like I said, Panthers can't move the ball. They can't stop anyone from moving the ball. Tennessee can't move the ball, but they can stop you from moving the ball. So things are definitely trending towards Tennessee's favor here. And they have Derrick Henry. Like I said, they're just going to ground and pound the whole game, basically drain the clock. I have Tennessee getting the win here, 24-20. So I have them covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. The next game at 1 p.m. on CBS, we have the 4-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers visiting the 5-5 Colts. Colts are the favorite here at home by 2.5 points, and the over-under is 44.5. So when you look at Tampa Bay, they have Baker Mayfield. He's closing in on 2,400 yards. He's actually having a pretty decent year so far this year. He's not the reason that they're 4-6. He has been pushing the ball down the field. He has been making good decisions. That's the biggest hang-up for Baker Mayfield is he throws picks and he throws the ball right into the dirt. He's not the reason that they're 4-6. You have good Baker, you have bad Baker. There's zero middle ground there. He has not been bad Baker so far the whole season. He's been good. He's been serviceable. They have wide receiver weapons. They have Evans. They have Godwin. When you look at the Colts, so Anthony Richardson is out for the year. They are starting Gardner Minshew. He's been starting for seems like a couple months now. He's kind of just like Baker. So they're basically the same player. You have good Gardner, bad Gardner, and it's pretty much a 50-50 split. Anyone can show up. So the Colts are favored here, and that can happen because Gardner Minshew could show up. He could throw 3 touchdowns. He could show up. He could throw 1 touchdown and 3 picks. But they probably have the deepest running back room in the country right now. They have Moss. They have Jonathan Taylor. So they can basically try to run the ball down anyone's throat. But when you look at the team stats here, Tampa Bay, they average 19.2 points per game. Colts, 24.2 points per game. On defense, Tampa Bay, they give up 20.0 points per game, and the Colts 24.8 points per game. So the Colts have the better offense, Tampa Bay has the better defense, and they have a really good pass rush. So the main thing about Tampa Bay is they can shut the run game down. They have a very good D-line. They have pretty good linebackers. So they will be looking to shut down Moss and Taylor and force Minshew into passing the ball. I think this game is almost 50-50. But I personally have Tampa Bay getting the upset. So I'm going to go with the plus 2.5. I have Tampa Bay winning 27-24, and I'm also going with the over. Our next game at 1 p.m. on Fox, we have the Patriots at 2-8 visiting the New York Giants at 3-8. The Patriots are 3.5-point favorites here. The over-under is a pathetic, measly 33.5. So this is kind of an eye-gouging game here. If you want to punish yourself, tune in to watch this game. This is the 2 worst offenses in the NFL, just slugging it out refusing to get first downs, getting sacked, and throwing picks. So if you want to watch some bad, sloppy football, this is the game to watch. If you want to start defense in fantasy, this is probably one of the teams to start because there's going to be some turnovers and no one's basically going to be scoring any points. That's a really low over-under, and that's a pretty low spread anyways. But looking at the Patriots, so Mac Jones has been a complete disaster so far this year. He was benched. You have Mac Jones. You have Zappy. Whoever starts, it really doesn't matter. They're not going to be pushing the ball down the field. Now, the Giants sometimes have a decent defense, sometimes have a bad defense. They did have Tommy DeVito come in. He had a pretty good game last week. I think that was a mistake. I don't know if they were trying to win that game, but you definitely didn't want to because you want to get a top 5 draft pick. I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot there actually doing well because I don't know if he's necessarily the future, but Daniel Jones was a massive mistake. Should have never drafted him. Should have never signed him to that contract. That was pretty stupid. If you wanted to draft a quarterback, you want Caleb Williams or Drake May, and at 3 wins right now, possibly flirting with 4 to 5 wins, you're kind of pushing yourself out of that conversation. But, maybe they want to go forward with Daniel Jones if they want to make another mistake, or maybe they want to go with DeVito. But either way, Patriots sit at 2-8. They need to throw the season. They need to get a top 5 pick. They need a reset at quarterback. But I don't think it's in Bill Belichick's blood to actually throw the season. He's very competitive. It is the Patriots way. They're going to try to compete every single game. When you look at the team stats here, you have the Patriots. They score a very low 14.1 points per game, and the Giants score 13.5 points per game. And that's with their starting quarterbacks. We don't even know who's starting for the Patriots. Mac Jones, Zappe, and for the Giants, it's DeVito. So they have backups playing. So it's probably going to be even worse. The Patriots defense gives up 23.8 points per game, and the Giants a very high 25.9 points per game. So I'm actually going to go with the Patriots getting the win here. I have them winning 17-14. So I don't have them covering the spread, and I'm also going to go with the under. I think this has the massive potential to just be a really low-scoring, boring, cold game. Then at 1 p.m. on CBS, we have the 7-3 Jacksonville Jaguars versus the 6-4 Houston Texans. Jacksonville on the road is the favorite here by 1.5 points. The over-under is 47.5. So when you look at the Jags, they are coming off of a win. Trevor Lawrence, though, does need to get the offensive numbers up. That's the big holdup here. So for the Texans, they're one of those surprise teams so far this year. Kind of came out of nowhere. They hit the jackpot with C.J. Stroud. He's just been going vertical. He is the offensive rookie of the year, having one of the best quarterback rookie seasons ever. Texans did beat the Jags in Jacksonville earlier this year, so the Jags want to return that favor going to Houston. When you look at the team stats here, Jacksonville, they average 23.0 points per game. Houston averages 23.8 points per game. So that's virtually even there. And on defense, Jacksonville gives up 20.4 points per game. Houston gives up 20.8 points per game. So these teams are virtually the same, and they almost have the same record. So they're pretty evenly matched here. Looking at the Jags, you have Lawrence coming in here. I don't think he's throwing for 250 yards yet. So kind of having a letdown year. He's closing in on 2,400 yards. He has 11 touchdowns, 6 picks. That's not very good. He needs to get those numbers up. C.J. Stroud, as a rookie, closing in on 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 5 picks. Both of them have good weapons, whether it's Ridley or whether it's Collins. I have Houston getting the win here, the upset at home. I am going to go with the plus 1.5. I have Houston winning 27-24, so I'm also going with the over. At 4:05 p.m. on Fox, we have the 7-3 Cleveland Browns versus the 5-5 Denver Broncos. Denver 1.5 point favorites here. The over-under a very low 36.5. So when you look at Cleveland, Deshaun Watson is out. Chubb is out. They have a lot of backups playing here. They're going to be going as their starting quarterback with Thompson Robinson, and he's very lacking in the passing game. He has 295 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 4 picks. Now, the Browns have still been able to win with that kind of play at quarterback so far this year. Why? Because they have an extremely gifted, talented, physical, aggressive defense. They get after the quarterback, and they keep every single game very close. For the Broncos, Since they got curb stomped by the Dolphins and they gave up a whopping 70 points, they've been on fire since then. They're not blowing anyone out. They're barely winning every single game, but that's fine because they're winning. They're playing very sound, efficient football. Russell Wilson is being serviceable, just not making any mistakes. That's the key. Running the ball, third and long, passing the ball, and beating teams in one-possession games, but they're winning and they're at 500 right now. So they're actually pretty hot, sitting at 5-5. Cleveland losing a lot of guys, but they have that really good defense. So looking at the team stats here, Cleveland, they average 22.7 points per game. Denver, 21.7 points per game. On defense, Cleveland, they only give up 18 points per game. Denver, a whopping 26.8 points per game. But that's with that 70-point game in there. So that kind of throws the numbers off. But I'm actually going to go with Denver getting the win here. They are the favorite team. It's just the Browns, Thompson, he's bad. And they can run, they can play good defense. They might be able to force Russell Wilson into some mistakes. But so far this year, he's been able to get out of trouble. I have Denver winning this game 20-17, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. The next game at 4:05 p.m. on Fox, we have the 4-6 LA Rams versus the 2-9 Arizona Cardinals. So Rams are on the road. They are 2-point favorites here. The over and under is 44.5. So when you're looking at this game with the Rams, they sometimes have a pretty good defense with Stafford. Sometimes he throws the ball, but he's been pretty banged up the whole year. Cooper Kupp is now out for the season. They do have Nakua. He's a legit weapon, but they're pretty much lacking a run game. So if they win this game, it has to be vertically with Stafford, and their defense has to show up. For Arizona, Kyler Murray is back. He's been kind of on, he's been kind of off, but he's pretty rusty, because this guy hasn't started in a year and a half to 2 years, so he's been out for a while. We don't really know what their plan is with Kyler Murray. Are they playing him actually legitimately trying to build a team around him, or is he just basically trade bait for them to try to draft a quarterback, either Caleb Williams or Drake May? If he's just trade bait, they probably don't want to win this game because they want to make sure to ensure that they have a very high pick, but they still want Kyler Murray to do well because they want to trade him. But maybe they want to keep him. I don't know if that's the case, but we'll just kind of have to wait to see. Looking at the team stats here, we have the Rams coming in. They average 19.5 points per game, and the Cardinals 17.5 points per game. The Rams give up 22.0 points per game, and the Cardinals give up a pretty bad 25.8 points per game. So these teams, I mean, they're both not very good teams at all, but the Rams are the favorite team. But to me, them losing Cooper Kupp is a pretty big loss. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals here to get the win, even though they don't want it. So I'm going to go with the +2. I have the Cardinals winning this game 23-21, and I'm going to go with the under. At 4:25 on CBS, we have the 7-3 Kansas City Chiefs versus the 5-6 Las Vegas Raiders. So Kansas City is 8.5-point favorites here on the road. The over-under is 42.5. So looking at the Chiefs, they're coming off of that horrible loss versus the Eagles. That game was theirs. Everyone had butterfingers that game. That was completely pathetic. I've never seen that many drop balls in my life. Mahomes was hitting guys right in the chest, and they were just dropping the ball. That was completely horrible. They must rebound. They've had that problem this whole season, and it seems to have not gone away, but actually gotten worse through this past week. So Kelsey was dropping balls. That's pretty bad once he's dropping balls. So they need to get the wide receiver core under control. They have Pacheco at running back. They have Mahomes. He is still Mahomes, so he can still make plays. This is still a very good team with a extremely great defense. Looking at the Raiders, they did fire Josh McDaniels. Jimmy G is a complete disaster. And as the starting quarterback, they're actually going to be starting O'Connell, closing in on 1,000 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 6 picks. So they have issues at quarterback. They have a decent run game. They have Josh Jacobs. They have Devontae Adams at wide receiver. So they're actually a very talented team roster-wise. Josh McDaniels is gone. They have Pierce as the head coach, but they don't have a quarterback. So the most important position they are lacking there, even with that very talented roster. Kansas City, they average 22.5 points per game. Raiders, they average 16.8 points per game. And on defense, Kansas City has a top 5 defense. They give up 16.4 points per game. Las Vegas has a pretty good defense also. They give up 20.5 points per game. So the big kicker here is Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, a top 5 defense that gets after the quarterback. They get sacks, they get turnovers, they get pressures, versus the Raiders, who have a very bad quarterback who's going to be hitting a lot, and often there's going to be turnovers. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs winning this game 27-14. So they're going to cover that spread, but I'm going to go with the under. Our next game at 4:25 on CBS, we have the 6-5 Buffalo Bills versus the 9-1 Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia comes in as 3-point favorites here. The over-under is 48.5. So with the Bills, they did get a win this last week, so that takes some pressure off of them because they've definitely been on the hot seat. One of the most disappointing teams so far this year. Now, they still have a great offense and a very good defense, but they just haven't gotten things clicking at the same time. So when the defense plays well, Josh Allen has turnovers. When the offense plays well, they give up points. So they just kind of have to get everyone on the same page. But this is an extremely talented roster. Do not sleep on the Bills here. For the Eagles, obviously they are 9-1. They are loaded with weapons. They have Hurts, Swift, Brown, Smith. They have a top 3 offensive line. They have a pretty good defense. When you look at the team stats here, the Bills, they average 26.7 points per game. Philadelphia, they average 27.3 points per game, so they're virtually even here, but the edge on defense goes to the Bills. They give up 17.3 points per game, and the Eagles give up 21.2 points per game. So virtually, just looking at the team stats, the Bills are the better team statistically, but the Eagles are at home. This game is probably going to be freezing cold, probably in the 40s or 50s. I have the Eagles getting the win here. 27-24, so I'm going with the push, and I'm going with the over. But I would in no way be surprised if the Bills win 27-24 because they're due, and they have to fight hard. They can't, again, drop to 500 in Week 12. That would be really bad for as talented as this roster is. The next game, we have the final game on Sunday night at 8:20 p.m. on NBC. We have the 8-3 Baltimore Ravens versus the 4-6 LA Chargers. Ravens come into this game as 3.5-point favorites here. The over-under is 48.5. So Baltimore, they did lose Andrews. That's a massive loss, but they still have Lamar Jackson. He can throw it. He can run it. They have Edwards at running back. They have a lot of weapons still, and they have a very solid defense. So this is one of the most rounded teams in the country. When you look at the Chargers here, basically the head coach is on the hot seat. He could get fired this weekend. He's probably, though, going to get fired by the end of this year, and deservedly so, because this team is very talented on both sides of the ball, but the record definitely does not show it. They have so many weapons. They have Herbert. They have Eckler. They have Allen. They had Mike Williams. He is hurt, but they still have a loaded offense, and they have very talented players on defense, but their defense has been playing like complete garbage. When you look at the team stats here, the Ravens, they average 27.6 points per game. Chargers, 25.9 points per game. And on defense, Baltimore gives up 16.1 points per game, and the Chargers, 23.8 points per game. So the Ravens have a top 5 offense, top 5 defense, hands down one of the most talented, rounded rosters. I'm going to go with Baltimore getting the win here. I have them winning 28-24, so covering, and I'm going with the over. The Chargers could definitely win this game. They're going to be really competitive. They want to get back to 500. They're a very talented team. They have the offensive firepower, basically, to keep up with the Ravens, and they want to play for their coach. I'm going to go with the Ravens, but like I said, due to desperation, the Chargers could definitely possibly win this game. And our final game of the week, the Monday night game at 8:15 on ABC, the 3-8 Chicago Bears versus the 6-5 Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota 3-point favorites here. Over-under is 43.5. When you look at the Bears, they have Justin Fields back. A lot of people have been saying that they want to trade him. I don't know why. The guy was having a pretty good year prior to him getting hurt. He's been throwing the ball, and obviously he can run the ball. He ran for over 100 yards last weekend. That's crazy for the quarterback. Looking at the Vikings, they lost Jefferson, they lost Kirk Cousins, and they continued to win. They got Josh Dobbs, who they brought in off the street basically after one day, and he's been winning. He's 2-1 as their starter so far. So they're kind of have a little Cinderella story going on. Now, Justin Jefferson should be coming back Monday night. That's a massive change because that gives Josh Dobbs a top 3 weapon in all of the NFL to be able to throw the ball to. And he was doing pretty well without him. So him being in, hopefully they got some chemistry this week. That's a big change there. Looking at the total team stats here, we have the Bears, they average 20.9 points per game on offense. Minnesota, 23 points per game. The Chicago Bears have a pretty bad defense, giving up 26.0 points per game, and Minnesota has a serviceable defense, giving up 20.9 points per game. You definitely see why the Vikings are the favorite here. They have Josh Dobbs, they have the hot hand, and they have Justin Jefferson who can make the massive difference. Do not overlook the Bears because with Justin Fields there, he can run it, he can throw it, he can easily throw for 250 and run for 80. That could be the difference maker. But I have the Vikings winning 30-24, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. So that's my breakdown of the Week 12 Sunday best bets. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks.